Is it morally bad to be good friends with bad people? In this polarized society, we inevitably interact with people who have drastically different moral and political views from us, and sometimes we become friends with them. However, do such friendships say something morally problematic about us, our moral psychology? I started thinking about this question when I had this huge fight with one of my best friends over whether women should have the right to abortion. The fight was so heated that I entirely stopped talking to him for that reason alone. At that time, it felt like exactly the right thing to do. I feel as though I owe it to my fellow women to not associate myself with a pro-lifer. However, I also couldn't help but feel that I had failed my friend. More importantly, the failure is a moral one. It was betrayal. Of course, this is not to say that all pro-life people are bad people. After all, it is extremely irresponsible to judge a person's overall moral character just based on a single belief. However, philosophy questions still remain. In the case where we're imagining that we're friends with indeed decidedly bad people, interesting intuitions still remain. In this case, it seems that we're pulled by opposite intuitions. On one hand, it seems morally objectionable to associate ourselves with morally bad people, but on the other hand, it also feels cruel and perhaps cold-blooded to simply cut them off. So far, philosophers have tried only to account for one side of the intuition, namely that there is something morally problematic in some way in being friends with bad people. And here are some reasons why they think that. Some philosophers, for example, argue that friendship necessarily involves an openness to being shaped by your friends' moral beliefs and values. And in the case of being friends with bad people, you're essentially opening yourself up to being shaped by your friends' bad moral beliefs and values. And that is definitely morally wrong. Alternatively, some other philosophers have argued that bad people simply do not deserve the good of friendship. That is, they do not deserve the moral partiality or the benefit of the doubt that we afford only to our friends. And finally, many philosophers are attracted to the idea that such a person commits a moral crime of complacency. That is, a person who associates themselves with bad people, their moral priorities are entirely disordered. They value the good of such a friendship over whatever the harm their bad person friends are inflicting on the society. However, in my research, I argue against all of these existing accounts. In my mind, being friends with bad people isn't itself necessarily morally telling. And sometimes it is the morally best thing we could do to stick with our morally problematic friends despite the moral difference. I argue, essentially, that the existing accounts of friendship are way overly idealistic. The current philosophical treatments of friendship either over-intellectualize, over-moralize friendship, or they simply assume that friendship is always harmonious. However, in our realistic experiences of friendship, we observe that friends don't have to agree on even important values. We fight and argue, and in the process, find the potential to transform each other morally. Friendship can take so many forms. And once we can expand our imagination of what friendship can be, we will immediately see that there's nothing morally telling by itself by counting a bad person as a friend. So, why does this all matter? Shortly after I delved into the research question, I started to realize that this is so intimate to both our personal and political life. That is, the phenomenon of feeling the moral pressure to cut off our morally problematic friends have been ubiquitous, especially since the 2016 presidential election. As a philosopher, my hope is that my research will help show that philosophy can be a practical subject. That is, it can guide our actions when dealing with even the most familiar subjects like friendship. And in this case, we can turn to philosophers like me for an answer to a practical question. And philosophy has yielded its solution. We should not always feel a moral pressure to cut off our problematic friends. And in some cases, we should feel a moral pressure to stick with them. Thank you.